Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. I start straight away with a question. Mariam asked me, well, three questions. What is the soul? What are emotions? Well, what's the purpose of the emotions? And what is love? What is the soul? I usually shy away from using that word just because it's not quite clear what it is. And it's not quite clear because different schools, different people use it for something different. Some people call something like the subtle body is the soul, that which goes out of the body when you die. Some people just distinguish the body, the spirit, and the soul and mean more an emotional thing. If at all I use the word soul, then I mean what I usually call your being. And that being is not really coming and going. That being is not really incarnated even now. Projecting into this world, but being unattached and unconcerned, just observing what's going on in this game, in this lila, in this theater of this world. So I would call that being the soul. Now, that's how I'm using the word, if I use it at all, and other people use it differently. So when you read somewhere somebody is talking about the soul, you cannot necessarily think, oh, he's talking about that divine being, that beingness that is also a being. For me, that's the soul. That being is all one, always aware of its own essence, its own divinity, not separate from the whole rest of existence, all one with all the other beings, and yet has its unique flavor. That being is not born, does not die, just projects here, projects there, gathers information, gathers experiences, gets enriched, gets enlarged, grows, not in the essence, but grows in the experience, in the awareness, in the wisdom, in the power that it can manifest. You are always that being. You are always your soul. You just have forgotten it. Somehow, something has happened in this world that when we get born, then we forget what we really are and think we are born, forgetting it's just an appearance. It's just the role that we are playing in the theater of this world, growing up, doing all kinds of things, eventually dying. But you, that being, the soul, is not affected, just gets wiser, richer, more powerful in course of the process. The soul doesn't know any suffering. It has just that inherent curiosity to experience, to enlarge, to expand the experience. But there is no suffering involved. Suffering is just for the manifestation if mistakenly we have identified with that projection. But you are not that projection, you are that being. You are what I call the soul. Other people may use the word differently. So that's why I'm usually not using that word.
Yes. Een van
Uh,
jullie heeft onder
Niels,
de stoel een
Niels,
kopje. Als je
can you
dan
please turn off the microphone? Ah, thank you. Then let's come to the second. What are emotions? Everybody knows emotions. We're having emotions all the time. But actually, what are they? They are a wave of consciousness combined with the life force. They always change. It's not that we can hold an emotion and keep it and then that remains there. Emotions come and go. Emotions get stronger, have a peak, and slowly subside again. They are always changing, always in movement. It's difficult to define exactly, but we can observe it's consciousness and energy, consciousness and prana. It comes, it rises, and then as a human being, as a manifestation, the experience of all kinds of feelings in the body come along with the emotion. Thoughts also come along with the emotion. Either we think first about something and then emotion comes, or the emotion comes and then invariably we think about something. But if we learn to step a step back and observe, then we can see, then we can experience. It's a wave that slowly comes and gathers momentum and strength. But if you observe it, it remains on the level where it belongs. And the, the part of the question is, what's the point of it? It makes the experience richer. It's part of the human experience that there are emotions. It's part of why the human experience is at all attractive for the being to project in this world, because it makes life much more powerful, much more juicy. Without emotion, the whole thing would be stale. Now, what is love? Because there is also an emotion that we call love. And as I have said before, but there is another love that is not an emotion, that doesn't have waves, that doesn't rise and fall and change all the time, that is a basic foundation of manifestation, that something that connects everything. Although that being that you are is unique, yet it's connected, it's one with all the other beings, with all the existence, with the abstract beingness, and the love is that which connects everything. Often we are confusing then love with the emotion love. We may feel affection for somebody, then actually a part of the question continues, what role does that love play in a relationship, in a partnership? Love, the pure love, is totally impersonal. It simply radiates towards everything in all directions, unblemished by personal attractions or rather repulsions. And yet, when somebody is in love, there is something so different. How come? When the emotion love is there, strong, that emotion is very nice, is very pleasant. There are emotions that are less pleasant, but the emotion of being in love, let's say affection, for not confusing the two. When there is a strong affection, then that's a very pleasant emotion, a very pleasant feeling in the body. And when we are experiencing that, then automatically something lets go. And in that letting go, it's much easier that we are touching real love, because real love is bliss. And the more of the real love comes to the forefront, comes in our conscious experience, and then along with that emotion, affection, there the love also flows more consciously. It flows anyhow according to our capacity, which increases all the time. But that love actually is there. But when we are connecting it with that emotion, love, with that affection, then it feels like it's overflowing and makes people happy. What creates the problem is that people would like that to stay as it is, but it doesn't, because it's very much influenced by the emotion, and emotions change all the time. We can't help it. It is simply a fact. We cannot experience emotion and like it and then think it should stay. It doesn't. That's also not the problem. If we are not totally identifying and think, ah, this is wonderful, this is makes us so happy, and then make our happiness dependent on that this emotion is always there. Because when that attachment is there, when that expectation is there, when I make that situation and that emotion responsible for my happiness, then invariably we are getting disappointed. So what role has love to do in a partnership? It's always there, but it's also there to all the other living beings. We may have cut off our conscious connection with it, it's still there. And the more powerfully a being is manifesting in this manifestation, the more powerfully that love simply flows. But the emotion helps us to be more conscious of it. But then, because the emotion is directed at one person or a family or a group of people, but especially one person, then we think that love that we are experiencing, that blissful flow, is specific for that person. Then when the emotion, the affection doesn't flow so nicely, then we are not more aware of that flow, and there is the disappointment. It's good to know you are the source of your happiness. You are complete in yourself. In manifestation, there can be a relationship, there can be a partnership. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it's good to remember, I am the source of my own happiness. It's not that I have to make my partner, my circumstances responsible to feel happy, to be happy, to feel complete. You are complete all the time. Yet, in the story, in the theater of this world, we can have that companionship. We can go the way together with somebody. We can inspire each other to learn, to grow. And as long as that awareness is there, it's not that I need my partner in order to be happy. It's a grace that it's manifesting, and we can happily go the way together. A lot of confrontations will be there. Two minds, they always, once in a while, have different ideas and clash. But if there is that basic love, then these confrontations can also help both of them to grow, to become more conscious. So the affection, the emotion love helps us to feel that current of love once in a while, often, a lot, but as long as that awareness is dependent on the emotion, on the affection, then that experience keeps on changing all the time. That real unconditional, impersonal love is there all the time. But the more we are aware of it, the more powerfully it will flow, the more powerfully one is aware of the connection with everything. Absolutely nothing wrong with emotions. It's part of the human experience. What creates the problem is that we don't see the emotion for what they are, totally identify with them, and then make them bigger and bigger and bigger, and sooner or later it creates problems. Or we don't like them and we fight them, and actually like that also we strengthening them, and they're getting bigger and bigger and creating problems. If we learn to observe, if we are connected in the present, that conscious awareness, that conscious attention is aware of that aspect that is not moved by anything, that is not really incarnated, that from where the strength comes, the energy comes, the possibility comes to experience and to play this role. If we are connected consciously with that, then the emotions that come and go are just a part of the human experience that is being observed. It makes the experience more powerful. It makes the experience more juicy. But they don't never become a problem. Even the negative emotions, if we can observe them like this, then they don't get out of bounds. They don't become destructive. They come, they are there a moment, they disappear. We observe them getting richer for the experience. If we identify with the manifestation, if we identify with that personality, that role that we are playing, then the emotions are often very problematic because we are identifying with them and feeding them, and they become often destructive. They become so powerful that everything is swept away by them. It need not be like this. We can learn to step back, see them, and then the emotions are perfectly fine. Actually, the whole range of emotions. Okay, I leave that subject and come quickly to a question of Mariano, who is right now a bit out of the city, luckily, near the beach, spending his time in meditation. And it comes again that question, surrender, self-inquiry, somehow how to bring them together, or is it okay to bring them together? Is it okay that there is also the calling for divinity in whatever form or not form, and self-inquiry? And of course, it's totally okay. There is absolutely no contradiction between doing self-inquiry and consciously surrendering. What does surrender, after all, mean? People spending most of their time being always in resistance, resisting something, resisting some kind of part of their experience or the whole experience, thinking always that it shouldn't be like this, it shouldn't be like that, or something at least should be different. And that resistance is creating all the tensions, all the pains, all the suffering. Surrendering simply means that we let go of that resistance, learn to accept. And it can be very helpful if a devotee calls out to God, see what's going on, and consciously, in a way, gives over all that resistance, all the tensions, all the pains, gives it all over to God. I'm always telling, bring the attention to the present and relax. That relaxing actually is nothing else but surrendering. And self-inquiry brings you to the present. It's not a question that has an answer. Who am I is not a question that finally we find the answer and then we know you are the answer. The question is a means to catch the attention and bring it back to that which makes the experience possible, and the relaxing is surrender. So the two merge together. There is absolutely no contradictions by all means, Mariano. If you feel like calling out to God in whatever form you feel like, do so. And don't think you are infidel to your self-inquiry. They go very well together, absolutely no problem. Okay, I leave that also. And then I'm Addressing you, my friends. Is there anyone here who would like to say something? You are welcome to come in.
Hello.
Hello, Andreas.
In Buddhism, they often talk about equanimity.
Yeah.
And how does it relate to the emotions? I mean, it sounds to me that they don't want to have so much. Equanimity means not having so much emotions anymore, or does it just mean not to identify so strongly with them anymore?
That's exactly it. As long as a body exists, emotions are there. But if you learn to be rather a step back and observe, and the more you do that, the more you become aware when they come. And then you observe them, and then they remain on their level, and they don't disturb your equanimity. So the emotions are not absent if you are in that state of equanimity, but you don't get swept away by them because you're not identifying. You're not a victim in the emotion.
And in psychology, there's like one professor who is like researching emotions, and he says that for every emotion he finds like that the involvement of the self in it, that you have to have a certain emotions, like for example for anger you have to have the opinion that the other person that you're angry about could have acted differently. If you don't have this opinion, like if you know that the other person was forced by someone else to do that, usually you don't get angry about them. So it seems to me that it's emotions always to have an emotion, you always have to attach to the self view. Yeah. Is that right?
You mean with the self now in this context, the me personality?
Yeah, the me personality.
Yes, who has ideas how things should be and react when things are not the way we think. I mean, emotion has not always the need of that, but of course, these kind of situations always bring about emotions. Somebody says something nice and we feel, oh, a very nice emotion about it. Somebody says something insulting and there comes the, so, the emotions come in relationship with the circumstances, what is happening, what we are hearing, what we are seeing, what we are perceiving in one way or another. And the quality of the emotion is very much dependent on our mental makeup, our ideas, how things should be and should not be. When they are contradicting, then we have unfavorable emotions. When they are in tune, then we have very nice and agreeable emotions. But sometimes emotions come from out of the blue, from anywhere, that are not directly connected to something that we are immediately experiencing. Maybe it comes off the subconscious from an old experience, that an old confrontation was there with a person that said something and behaved in ways that I didn't like. And we are not quite aware that it's connected. If you observe, then that awareness may come, but sometimes we are just picking up also. After all, we are connected with the mind sphere of whole humanity. And sometimes we are just picking up emotions that are there, that floating by, and then we are experiencing emotions that are not directly connected to the personal experience. Both is there.
Can you distinguish these two kinds of emotions from each other?
Not really, because you have to deal with them in the same way.
But if it's like more my emotion, then that is connected to some clinging to the self view and the little me, then I could sometimes figure out, okay, I'm clinging to this specific viewpoint, and the other person might watch this very differently, and then sometimes the emotion gives a little bit, subsides a little bit, or that isn't so strong anymore.
Yes, in a personal situation like this, the understanding that after all I'm overreacting like this because just clinging to my ideas, understanding that may help you to let it go. And if you just pick up an emotion that has nothing to do with a particular personal situation, then it's enough that you just are aware, there is that emotion, and you need not brood about it. Where does it come from? You just observe, see what it is doing, and relax. And then it comes, it's there, it goes, it doesn't leave a trace.
And why do like enlightened people still have so many emotions? Like Nisargadatta was reported that he sometimes was angry and in a rage, and then is it that this is just superficial and below that there's equanimity?
Definitely. He never cared to somehow change he was brought up in a village, and in the Indian village the life is quite rough, and they are behaving quite rough with one another. I can see it here around also. Their behavior is not very refined, and he never bothered to change that personality. Also when he was in Bombay, also when he was a teacher, he was still behaving quite rough and but behind that there was that awareness of that which is not affected by it, and that was his home. The rest was just superficial appearance, and he didn't bother to change that. He didn't bother to behave like a holy man.
So that holy man behavior is something superficial too?
Right. It can be a genuine expression of how one feels. But many religious people, that's how they learn to be more conscious. They have their ideas. I should behave like this and this and this and this. This is spiritual. And then actually that trying to adjust to all those ideas, how one should behave, is one way of learning to become more conscious. And that is the important thing. The spiritual development actually is not that we should desperately try to become holier and holier and holier and holier. You are whole. You are holy in your being all the time. You don't have to become that. But then controlling our ways of behaving is very helpful to learn to become more attentive. There is nothing moral about it. And Nisargadatta, he was capable of being attentive. He just had that strong faith in his guru, and he had that strong drive that whatever his guru has told him must be true, but he wants to verify it with his own experience. So he was totally attentive, even if he didn't bother to behave very subtle and very refined externally.
Can you overdo this holy behavior in a way? Like sometimes I have the feeling that it's in some areas, some circumstances, it's not very genuine, and I don't. It's it seems strange to me.
Of course, a sadhak can genuinely try to behave subtler just because he feels that this would be more natural, to be after that in tune with beingness, and struggles for that, and that's perfectly all right. But of course, then it's always possible that ego personality is always capable of turning everything into an ego trip, so we can behave and make a big show of being holy, and behind that are not so very wonderful motivations and feelings.
Okay.
Yeah. Shall we leave it at that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to come and say something? You're welcome.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Vikas.
Hello, Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
So, my question is, uh, like when we do our practices, I was going through some YouTube videos, and uh, I came to know that there are some people, when they are doing their practice, if they are doing their homas, they see the deity in the fire. If they do homa, they see the deity in the fire.
Yeah.
And so they say that as you are elevating yourself, your body and consciousness becomes more clearer. Then there is a place, there is a stage where you can see the entities around, and and so you can see the entities around. Now, my question uh, uh, is it possible for you to share with us any such incidents? And my doubt is, if these entities are not good, like suppose they are negative entities, or there are entities which have their own desires and they latch on to us. Like there have been situations in my life where I feel that I had a lot of desires, and there has to be some kind of pull. And there was some times in my life when I used to be so, my mind would be so peaceful that I used to know all answers in my exam.
Yeah.
So, and there was a time when, like, we were playing some games like Tambola game where you have numbers. So, and I knew that these numbers are there with me and I'll be the winner. So actually I won it, but it never happened again. So now that I look back, I feel that, okay, there have been some situations. So I was asking that and there, this Aurobindo Ghosh, who has set up this Auroville, he says that most of the time, our thought process, the thoughts which come to our mind are not ours. There is somebody else who is putting those thoughts in our mind. So these are my thought process, and I would like to know your opinion on this.
You started out with in the practices. If somebody does puja, they try to see the deity in the fire. It's perfectly valid. It's just one way of connecting with that divinity. And then if they do so sincerely, strongly, they may become aware of all kinds of entities that are around. But then I would recommend to such a practitioner, don't pay attention to them. Just stick with that main purpose of the puja. And if the pujari is doing puja to a particular deity, then stick with that deity, because that deity represents that pure divinity. Now, entities are being attracted. And basically, if you do pujas and spiritual practices, there are benevolent entities. But even if you should start to become aware of them, don't pay them special attention. Stay with the essence of the practice. Entities are also attracted if we are not doing practices, but if we are in a negative mood, also unfavorable entities are being attracted. And they are usually there because they like the negative emotions and they are feeding on them. the benevolent entities that come when you are doing spiritual practice, when there is a bhajan, when there is a puja, when people meditate, they also benefiting. They also getting something out of it, but it's a two-way thing. That they also giving something back. Their very presence makes the experience more intense. So both sides are benefiting. Those who do the spiritual practices and those who, oh, he's disappeared. Anyhow, I continue talking, then whatever you're missing, because then you can hear later. Those beneficial entities, they are being attracted by spiritual practices. Those beneficial entities, they are getting something out of it, but they are giving back, and both are benefiting, the practitioner and those subtle beings that are being attracted by it. Still, for the practitioner, it's better not to get distracted and somehow try to get something out of the fact that they are there, but simply stay with the essence of the practice, be it self-inquiry, be it meditation, be it puja, be it bhajans, be it whatever. But it's good to know that one reason why being negative is so exhausting is that there are also entities attracted. But it's another kind of entities, and they just want to come and milk us. They just are there and maybe giving a push when somebody is opening up to a negative thought, to a negative feeling, and gets gloomy, gets angry, gets destructive, then they are rejoicing, and actually they may push to make it stronger because they like to feed on that energy. But from them, nothing comes back. So they're just taking, and after such a negative outburst, people are very exhausted, partly because of that. It's good to know that they exist. We need not be afraid of that because we have always the freedom, the strength to decide on what side we are opening, whether to the positive or to the negative. Now, you said that Aurobindo said that most of the thoughts are not our thoughts. I wouldn't say most of the thoughts, but a lot of the thoughts that go through somebody's mind are being at least influenced by currents that are just manifesting there. But also with that, the more you become aware, most of the people have no clue what they are thinking all the time. The thoughts just go on and on and on and on and on and on, and they don't even know that these thoughts are going on. But the more you become aware of your thoughts, the more you can also be sure you have the choice whether you're following, whether you get interested in thoughts, whether you are following that, and if certain lines of thoughts come, whether they come from your subconscious or whether they come from the subtle mind sphere of humanity, you can say, no, I'm not interested. And as they come, you just let them pass and you need not go along with it. So it's still up to each one whether we are opening up to a line of thought, whether we get interested in it, whether we start to create emotions, and often negative emotions, and then create some trouble with them, or whether we see such thoughts and let them come, observe what they are doing, and let them go. And then you are in charge, whether the thoughts are produced in your own manifestation or whether the thoughts come from somewhere else. And then if you are in charge, you learn to open up to that which is beneficial, that which is expansive, because that is natural. consciousness naturally wants to be expansive. And all the spiritual practices, if they are done in a good spirit, help you. And then you connect with that, and you don't worry whether or not, or what kind of entities are being attracted. You just stay with that connection. And even a pujari, as you said, who is visualizing the deity in the flame and starts to see the deity, is well advised to remain with that divinity manifested in the form of that deity, and not to get distracted by all kinds of other entities that also may be attracted in course of the process. Okay? Your microphone is off. For a moment you disappeared, and when you came in again, the microphone was gone.
Yeah, my internet connectivity was unstable, so
Yeah.
I joined.
But you have heard what I said. Otherwise,
Yes,
you...
yeah. Yes, of
Uh-huh.
course. Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om. Okay, I see there is a message. Then I see. I guess Mariam was here and had to go. Is there anybody else who would like to say something? Hello, Leela.
Hi. I want to ask about emotions and sensations.
Yes.
I read, I have met somebody new for me anyway on the net, and he speaks about emotions as a kind of package of sensations and thoughts and stories, and that makes it so much more difficult to deal with, rather than noticing the actual sensations that appear. Yeah, I think you understand what I'm trying
Yes.
to ask. What
Yes.
I'm trying to, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So you want me to comment on that?
Yes, please.
Yes. Right. As you know, often I'm saying, when we are talking about emotions, about experiences, just don't fight them, let them be there, but see what they are doing to your experience right now. And that actually is very strongly body sensations that are connected to these emotions. There may be first sensations from an external influence, and then we get emotional about it. Or most of the time it's the other way around. There are emotions, and then this is doing things to the body, and most of the people have no idea that this is happening. But if we learn to be attentive and observe that, then in that way we can detach from the emotion for not being swept away by them, instead of holding on to the thoughts or the ideas that brought up this emotion or are connected to them, the situation that is connected to the emotion. If we redirect the attention to the sensations, feel what is happening in the body, and learn to relax it, then we can in this way detach from the emotion, that they are not more a problem.
Yeah.
That's because they are manifesting as sensations. Often I said, yes, see what they are doing in your body. What I meant is look at the sensations that they are producing and then learn to relax.
Yeah, so maybe can I say that sensations, they seem to come and go, and they're more mm, more real, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe more. While emotions are a mix of, as I said before, thoughts and life history and stories, like these ongoing stories, and yeah, something we become attached to as part of our personality and of our life story and all that. As sensations are natural, and they, as I said, as you said, they come and go
And the
keep
difference is
changing.
that the sensations, they are now. They are not a moment before or a moment after. If you are aware of the sensation, you bring the attention to the present. Whereas with our thoughts, we can dream away in the past and be totally lost in a story. The sensation brings you to the present. That's why it's very valuable to learn to feel the sensations, but at the same time, we don't have to accept that they are just there. When they create tensions, we can also consciously start to relax them.
Yeah, okay.
Hmm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Would anybody else like to come in? You're welcome.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Dial. Back in Russia.
So I'm back in Russia. A lot of snow. Yeah, it's big different than India.
Right.
Yes. I'm preparing myself for a long retreat Vipassana, and I want to ask you how to deal with emotions when I feel there's nothing happened, boring, and when you're doing practice and doesn't have result, so how you can motivate yourself to continue?
If emotions like boredom are coming.
Yes.
Right. Right. Well, then you treat it like any other emotion. Then when it starts nagging and you feel slowly getting bored and getting more bored, first maybe you're not quite aware that it's there. But when you become aware, then you say, okay, then I'll treat it like any other emotion. And for some time, you just open up to feel bored. Then feel bored consciously. But at the same time, exactly do what we just said with Leora, see what kind of sensations that produces. And then when you see those sensations and start to relax it, then the whole flavor of the situation, of the experience changes. And actually the boredom suddenly has no more place there, because then it's becoming interesting. When you watch the sensation, when you really connect with life through the sensations in the present, there is always that living quality there. And for that, boredom doesn't exist.
Okay, Werner, thank you. I will try.
So I wish you well and a lot of strength and alertness in those 30 days it goes, huh?
Yes, 30 days.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay, Werner, thank you.
Hari Om.
Good luck. Hari Om.
Is there anybody else who would like to say something? But Dial just asked, often in my period when I was sitting lots and hours and hours, Sometimes people ask me, are you not getting bored? I was getting bored sometimes with my silly mind that didn't want to stop and go on and on and on, but more frustrated. But if you calm down, if you bring the attention to the present, then you are touching life. And life is joyous. If that connection is there, emotions like boredom, they simply cannot come there. It's as long as we are more hanging on in the mental sphere, think I have to somehow sit my hours through, but they are in the mind, then boredom can come. I think, oh, it's hard to just not do anything and just to stick it out until the time is over. But if we learn to really bring the attention to the present, there we are touching that bubbling beauty, that bubbling creativity of existence. And here now, in that joyous existence, boredom simply cannot even come close. There is not even a question of boredom. Boredom and similar emotions come when we go round and round in the mind. And that actually is sort of boring. Then after that, we have the tendency not see where that emotion has been kindled and project it on a situation and think this situation is boring me, but actually I'm boring myself with my own mind. And so if we become aware that this kind of emotions come, then just turn it around by using that very emotion of boredom. Then let it come and let it manifest and turn the attention to the sensations that it produces. See what it is doing in the body. See what it is doing energetically and relax, and that actually connects you with that timelessness of the now, and there is no boredom in existence. It's a mental thing. And here now, the mental thing is quiet. It's never boring. Existence, life, that creativity of existence is never boring. It may express itself in this manifestation through art, through nice behavior, through anything. It may express itself, or it may not express itself. One may be sitting quietly and be fully aware of that creativity of existence and feel the potential, the joyousness. There is not a trace of boredom in that. Sometimes people ask me when I'm talking about creativity, but creativity, I want to do things to be creative. Yes, if one feels like doing so, by all means, express your creativity in any art, in any way, but it is not dependent of being expressed. I spent once 7 years in a row in the same place, doing nothing, and I look at it as a most creative period in my life. Simply because I learned to be more and more firmly rooted, stronger rooted in that timelessness of the now, being in touch with life, even if it was not externally manifesting in any action that was a totally creative experience. Okay, I'm asking you again, is there anyone who would like to come in? See, Neil also had to go and says thank you to everybody. I see Victoria, you want to come in? You have to unmute. Ah, didn't want to come in. Oh yes, you want to come in? I don't know, Victoria, whether you're trying to connect. If you want to say something, you have to unmute. Now it's unmuted.
Okay, good. You know, I have this problem sometimes when I try to come in, my screen just goes blank. I'm not leaving on purpose, but I came back. And first a comment and then my question. I really like your comments on boredom because that means that the next time I'm bored, maybe I can say to myself, oh, this boredom shows that I'm like paying too much attention to my mind because if I was more in the present, I wouldn't be bored, right? So it can kind of be a signal maybe.
Right. Then,
Okay.
then deal with the boredom as we have been talking about. Feel, see what it is doing, see the sensations it produces, and in doing so, you redirect the attention to not the mental plane, but the living experience right now. And the boredom actually slowly passes away. Yeah?
Okay, I almost look forward to being bored. That's great. I want to try that. But I also, my question is that for many years now, I have noticed I seem to be on kind of like a 12-hour cycle. And every day, and maybe it's just the Raja, Sattvic, and Tamas times of day, but like around 3 a.m., I feel very negative and very down, and it seems very heavy, you know, almost like I'm being visited by negative entities or something, and it only lasts an hour or two. And then 12 hours later, when it's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the day, I feel very tired and I feel very pessimistic and negative once again. And it's been going on like this for years. I can kind of count on this like clockwork. And, you know, and conversely, there are times like dawn and the early morning hours where I just feel so effortlessly positive and joyful and inspired. And, you know, and then after that, that negative time in the afternoon, I have a period where I feel quite, again, easy to connect with, you know, maybe with the divine or something. It just feels very, you know, I love the good times, and I really sometimes kind of dread those dark times. But it's like clockwork, you know.
Yeah. Partly it has to do also with the vitality. In the morning, one has easily a lot of strength and feels ready to do basically anything. And then, like in the afternoon, we start to get a bit tired. And if there is more conscious energy there, manifest, then it's easier to slip a bit into negativity, into negative emotions.
It's true. I'm also very tired at those times. I feel like unable to meet the challenges that life might pass me. Like, oh, how will I ever deal with this in those times? And in the good times, I think, oh, I can handle this, you know.
Right, as you know that it is having a bit that cycle, and when it starts to come, then you can also consciously not take it so serious when negative thoughts come and think, yes, yes, I know you have the tendency to come up in this time. And instead of feeding them, getting interested in them, feeding them by fighting them, you just try to redirect the attention also and see what these moods, what these thoughts are doing. See what it is doing to your body. Observe what kind of sensation it produces. Learn to relax. And then you may still feel a bit tired more at that period, which is natural for many people. But then when you treat it like this, it doesn't make you feel that you are being pulled somewhat in a dark place.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
It's on the mental level where we are increasing that and fighting with this kind of stuff, and then it always have the tendency we make a problem out of it. And if you accept it's there, but redirect the attention to the effect it has, then you are coming directly to the present. And from here, we just have to relax a bit, and there we go even deeper. And here now, there is no negativity, there is no boredom, there is no destruction, there is only the beauty of existence.
Right. Right. Oh, good. I knew there must be some more skillful way, for me to deal with these times, and good. Thank you. I will try that because I know that they will.
What you said?
I said I will try that next time because I know it will come.
It will come. Yes. I wish you well. Good luck with
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Would anybody else like to come in? All our spiritual practices, all our efforts to somehow get somewhere spiritually, to achieve something spiritual. Actually, the essence of all that is that we somehow or other learn to redirect the attention from our mental preoccupations. All our problems are being created in the mind. Externally, there may be problems, there may be difficult situations we have to face, but that we are turning less favorable situations into problems, that's something that we are doing in the mind. And then we desperately try to resolve it on the mental level, and it's very difficult. But if we are conscious of it at all, that's how it's functioning. And then consciously learn to redirect the attention from the mental level to the immediate experience. And then let's not think the body is not spiritual enough, so we don't want to go on the level of the body. If we redirect the attention and observe what is happening physically, when all this stuff goes on in the mind, then already what has caused a problem loses its strength, and actually we reconnecting consciously with the current of life. Here, now, is the only point we are touching reality. All else is in the mind. And all the spiritual efforts, we may do all kinds of techniques, all kinds of different practices, but the essence of them all is they somehow help us to redirect the attention and bring it to the timelessness of the now, to connect consciously with life. Of course, we are always connected with life, with consciousness, with love, with the energy. But with our attention, we can always wander away and overlook it. This sense of presence that is first, prior to any experience, is always there. But we can totally ignore it, and the attention can roam anywhere in the ideas of the past, in the future, in the situations, but not being present, but then being busy with details of the situation, losing that sense of presence. Somehow or other, that's the job, learning to redirect the attention and become aware this connection is here, now, always there. It's never absent. And if we learn to bring the attention to that connection, to that current of life, and learn to relax in it, then all these things that look so problematic and create difficulties somehow lose totally their power. Still, we may face unfavorable periods, we may face unfavorable situations, we may face unfavorable people, but if we stop taking it so serious, if we are aware, okay, this is just an experience, a confrontation, to so much stronger be in the present, then they stop being problems. A nice situation comes, we accept it gladly, but then it goes, and we learn to also let it gladly go, because usually we want to hold on to when we like it. And the opposite, a not nice situation comes, and usually we don't want it, but then we accept it. It comes, and we let it gladly go. Here, now, there is that joyousness of existence, that is that bubbling beauty of existence, there is that living quality. If we give it a chance, it comes to the surface, no matter what the situation. And the practices have all that essential point that they help us to bring the attention back. That's the essence of it. Even if we're doing certain techniques, these techniques are maybe very helpful, or they help to withdraw the attention from our mental obsessions, what we are busy with, and bring it back to a technique, to a practice. But then we don't have to stop there. We can, it's like when we through the practice come to the present, that which we are looking for is right behind it. It's here, it's now, it's never absent. And in the weirdest situations, we can learn to turn the attention back to that. And then even in the weirdest situations, we can be quite happy. Okay, I saw a camera lighting up. Does anybody would like to come in? There is Andreas. Hello.
Probably you already answered it. I just wanted to know if you can apply this also when you feel like that you are under the weather, like on rainy days in Germany, which we have a lot right now. A lot of times I feel like very low in energy and very slightly depressed, not really depressed, but like in a in not such a good mood. And if the sun comes out then and everything is, the mood on completely changes. I feel the weather very strongly, and this is kind of a subtle thing. So can you apply what you just said to that too? Do I have to focus on the subtle feeling of being down?
Right. Of course, it's a bit easier to deal with emotions that are strongly energetically charged, that emotions there are that somehow are connected with a bit a lack of energy. So if that happens like on continuous rainy days there, that you feel a bit depleted of energy, then try not to resist against the fact that you feel like this. And that feeling a bit low on energy, relax in it. And then actually it may happen that feeling low on energy may really, when you stop struggling with it, when you are not a victim of it, but just see that is the experience, and it has the tendency to produce this emotions, that emotions, this rather gloomy mood, then just focus on feeling a bit not so energetic and relaxing it, and that can very deeply make you connect with yourself. And then here now, oh, this doesn't mean anything anymore, whether it rains or not, whether the sun shines or not. Because here now there is only that beauty of existence.
Okay.
So try, when you feel that gloomy thing coming and you feel a bit depleted of energy, then okay, accept that's how it feels. And instead of struggling against it, relax in it and see what happens.
Yeah, my usual reaction is resistance, or like thoughts are coming up. I have to go to another place where there's more sunshine.
Right.
And then I
Right.
start to play.
The running away reaction that comes usually too easy to situations that we don't like very much. Let's run, go for something else. But many times it's just not what is possible, and it's also not advisable that we always try to run, because we can run forever. Wherever you go, there are always those things that will make you run again. Acceptance. Acceptance is the golden first rule. Acceptance not as a weakness, not as a victim. Poor me, okay, it's like this, I cannot do anything. Acceptance simply means not struggling against the fact of the experience. And then learn to relax in it. And then even not only like power charged emotions, like anger is a very energetic emotion that has already the energy in it, and we can learn to redirect that energy and it starts to transform. But also situations and emotions that are rather you feel depleted of energy. If we stop resisting against that and learn to relax in that, then actually it can bring you very deeply to your own resources, and the energy is there. Beautifully, joyously. Okay, try. Wish you good luck.
I have a lot of opportunities over here.
Yes, good. So you're in the right place. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hi.
If anybody wants, we can make a little longer. There is some more time. If somebody would like to come in, you're welcome. All right. We started the satsang with the 3 questions. What is the soul? What is emotion? What is love? And all the questions, in a way, they point in the same directions. In order to deal with that life experience creatively, in order to use your time in a favorable way, that it's worth the trouble to play this human game, somehow or other, we have to find our way to consciously bring the attention back to that simple sense of presence that everybody somehow knows so perfectly well, because it's the most intimate. Nobody can say, I don't know that. That which I'm touching when I say I. Before I start to give explanations, there is that most familiar sense of presence, that conscious sense of being alive. So intimately known, but not known like something else, but known by being, because that is what you are. And the solution to our problems is always in one way or another. Bring the attention back to that and learn to relax in it, get rooted in it, start to live from that perspective and let that inner beauty more and more express it in our external situation, in our external life. No matter how, whether we are doing a lot of external things, where it's being expressed, or just by consciously being and radiating that inner beauty. I wish you all well. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.